Well, a break fee, very simplistically put, is a termination fee which is payable by the seller or the target company to the buyer when certain terms and conditions which are set out in the acquisition agreement are not complied with by the seller or the target company. In contrast, the reverse break fee construct entails payment of a termination fee, but by the buyer to the seller or the target company when the buyer fails to fulfill some of the terms and conditions set out under the acquisition agreement. When both break free and reverse break free are really essentially deal protective devices, it really what it does is kind of instills confidence in the parties that whatever terms and conditions is enshrined in the acquisition agreement will be honored by the parties, and in case of dishonor of such terms and conditions, there is a kind of a monetary liability attached to it. In most transactions, there will be a lot of effort which goes across the board from both parties. From buyer standpoint, a buyer will have to conduct a due diligence in order to evaluate the health of a company, and before it makes investment, it will have to engage multiple advisors in order to really make up its mind, and then of course negotiate a transaction document and execute the same. And therefore, it would not want that the seller, for no real solid reason, decides to walk out and terminate the transaction. Likewise, from a seller standpoint, it will also have a lot at stake when it negotiates and enters into a transaction document for a transaction. It will not want the buyer to really leave it high and dry either when it decides to terminate the contract. And therefore, both from buyers and seller standpoint, deal certainty is key, and they will want some kind of a deterrence which can be achieved through a break fee and a reverse break fee. Well, firstly, every transaction is different, and really, whether a particular event should be included as break fee or reverse break fee or not depends a lot on the facts and circumstances of each transaction, along with the relative negotiating and bargaining strength of each parties. Having said that, some of the grounds on which buyers typically seek break fee are in case the seller, let's say, breaches material terms and conditions, including, let's say, exclusivity or no shop obligation, pursuant to which the seller was required to only talk to the buyer, but it really breaches that condition and talks to other buyers, which leads to termination of the acquisition agreement. Or the seller breaches a key condition precedent, for example, it fails to get shareholder approval, or fails to get a key governmental consent, or breaches representations and warranties, especially the material ones. All of this, the buyer can really argue to say that, well, because of these breaches, they can't complete the transaction, and they will have to claim break fee. From a seller standpoint, really, it would argue that, look, if the buyer fails to fulfill its condition precedent, for instance, if a transaction is structured as acquisition finance and it fails to get the lender to fund prior to closing or on closing, that definitely becomes a genuine ground to claim reverse break fee. Likewise, if a regulatory consent like from Competition Commission of India is not obtained, that also perhaps seller puts seller in a good position to argue that it really should get a reverse break fee. Well, firstly, the concept of break fee or reverse break fee is not really expressed, recognized by any Indian statute or law, and therefore it will really be a function of the contract which enshrines such concepts, and that needs to be tested accordingly. Three key points to be noted in this context. First, under Indian contract law, any amount which is penal in nature or really is exorbitantly high will most likely be struck down by Indian courts. And therefore, parties will have to be very careful to strike a balance between putting an amount which is high enough to act as a deterrent, but not that high so that this is construed as penal and struck down. The second point to be noted here is that if a non-resident is a potential recipient of a break fee or reverse break fee, then there is a possibility that India's Reserve Bank of India or authorized dealer bank may raise a question or two because under Indian foreign exchange laws also the payment of break fee or reverse break fee to a non-resident is not explicitly recognized. Uh, Last case of public listed companies, if the target public listed company has agreed to pay a break fee or reverse break fee to a potential party, in that case, also the SEBI may really take a view that look, this is not in the interest of the public shareholder and strike it down. Having said that, these are not insurmountable issues, and expert legal advice can ensure that this can be structured and navigated appropriately, and end result can be achieved within the remit of the law. Well, in terms of takeaway, the first point is that look, in these times of uncertainty resulting from COVID-19, uh, if parties are desirous of completing M&A transactions, deal protective devices are a reality, and increasingly, I would say parties should seriously consider having break fee and reverse break fee concepts to inspire the confidence to the relevant parties and really try and kind of examine a M&A transaction or opportunity seriously. The second point is that while drafting any such concepts, take a very careful look at what grounds really acts as trigger for break fee and reverse break fee. If a ground is very loosely worded, that may have undesirable consequence for a party. The third factor is while setting the break fee amount, the quantum should not be exorbitantly high because that is most likely to be rejected by Indian courts and struck down as penal in nature. And lastly, I would say if a non-resident party is a recipient of this break fee or reverse break fee, appropriate legal advice in foreign exchange laws should also be obtained so that the net objective can be achieved in a expeditious manner.